So, welcome everyone, and thank you for being here today. So, we are continuing our journey of reflections on the Bodhisattva way. And Bodhisattva, for those of us uh, who may maybe not know what does it mean, the word in simple manners, it reflects the heroic spirit, the heroic spirit that is there in all of us, who wants to selflessly work for the benefit of mankind. So these are the Bodhisattva vows that we take every time we have a session. So one of us, if Diya or Swapna, you can unmute, one of you can unmute and read these vows for all of us as a reminder. That would be really nice.
Okay, I'll
Yeah,
try reading the what is there in
please.
the screen.
Yes, please. Yeah.
May I be a guard of those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a vase of plenty, and a tree of miracles. And for the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring, may I bring sustenance and awakening, enduring like the earth and sky, until all beings are freed from sorrow and all are awakened.
Thank you so much. So this is what is to be repeated every time. One can repeat it every day. Dalai Lama, His Holiness Dalai Lama, he takes these vows every day because we forget, we forget and we get too distracted in emotions and mental chatter. So it is a reminder for all of us who now willfully want to walk the path in which we benefit others and the whole of the humanity. As long as far as we go and the people we touch, we benefit. May we become benefit for all the mankind. So kind of putting yourself aside, usually we are always trapped in my desires, my needs, my expectations from life. Now we are just ready to put those aside, and we are ready to offer ourselves through our work, through our body, speech, action, in whatever way we can benefit the mankind, or not only the mankind, the whole of manifestation. So these are just reminders, and we can just repeat them for ourselves. We don't have to just repeat them in the session, we can repeat them every day for ourselves. So after this, we usually read the verses that we have been reflecting upon. So we have been reflecting upon these Lojong root verses. Lojong means mind training. Uh, and we have been listening to teachings on each verse, like the first verse, the second, and now we are on the seventh verse today, which is the supreme accomplishment is a continuous decrease of disturbing emotions. So iske bare mein we'll just listen to a teaching after we have read this, and then we can share our reflections, questions, and doubts later on. So before we start with the teaching, let us go through these verses again and again, because just reading them brings something to light, and it's always a joy to read them aloud. So if one of you can read the highlighted portion, then the other one can read the next part. Anyone who feels ready?
I could read it. The supreme understanding is to realize the meaning of selflessness. The supreme spiritual discipline is to tame one's own mind. The supreme great quality is altruism. The supreme oral instruction is to observe the mind at all times. The supreme remedy is to know that nothing has self-nature. The supreme conduct is to be in disharmony with the world.
Yeah, thank you. So this was the last that we stopped at, listening to teaching. So Dia, if you could read these, that would be
Yes.
really nice. Yeah.
The supreme accomplishment is a continuous decrease of disturbing emotions. The supreme sign of accomplishment is continuous decrease of wishes and wants. The supreme generosity is non attachment. The supreme ethical conduct is to pacify one's mind. The supreme patience is to take the lowest place. The supreme effort is letting go of activity.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sham, would you like to read? Do you have the possibility of unmuting?
Well, the supreme concentration is not altering the mind. The supreme wisdom is not grasp onto anything as the self. The supreme spiritual teacher is the one who exposes our hidden flaws, and the supreme instruction is the one that helps us to strike at those flaws. The supreme companions are mindfulness and alertness. The supreme inspiration is enemies, hindrance, disease, and suffering. The supreme method is to be natural. The supreme way of benefiting is to help others enter the dharma. The supreme benefit is a mind that turns towards the dharma.
Thank you. So we stopped last time at the supreme conduct is to be in disharmony with the world. So some of us were there last time. And just to recapitulate, it just reflects that usually the social conditioning uh, pushes you somewhere else, like peer pressure pushes you towards something else. Everybody would be saying get married, have children, so this, it's like a flow of conditioning which pushes you somewhere. But here it is said the supreme conduct is to be in disharmony with the world. So if it's not that just for the sake of going opposite to the world you have to do this, but usually the rightmost actions that we take or decide to take are mostly in disharmony with the world. So world would be saying accumulate more money, but you would say no, I don't want to do that, right? So maybe I want to do something else. So this is disharmony with the world, that you are not aligned with what the social conditioning is asking you to do. And this is why at this moment, in this point, we were discussing last time the importance of community of like-minded people. For example, a little platform like this, we are able to understand each other, and we know that we are all traveling in the similar direction, following the calling of our hearts rather than following the calling of the world. So that's why the importance of sangha. In Buddhism they have three things, three jewels, as they say: take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Sangha is community of like-minded people. So you don't feel abandoned that, oh, I am the only one who is not following the social norms. No, there are others also which have now decided not to follow the social norms because they are not in alignment with the heart's calling. So that's how it helps to have people to whom we can talk about things that really really matter to us. Otherwise we may go in a family gathering, we may go in a family celebration, but there's hardly a depth talk that we can discuss there. We always discuss what kind of food it is, okay, what kind of clothes you are wearing, what is your child doing. So it's always on the surface level. But when we want to talk about heart to heart things, we don't have many people like that. So that's why to take refuge in the community of like-minded people, because there would come times when we'll feel abandoned or lost or alone. Am I making the right decision? Is this the right voice that I am hearing in my heart? How do I make sure? So then it really helps if we have people who are walking the same path. So that was the last point that we stopped upon. So today we are going to listen to a teaching by Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo on the verse number 7, which is the supreme accomplishment is a continuous decrease of disturbing emotions. So let me just put it on screen share. We'll listen to it, and then we can, after that, we can share our reflections, doubts, or anything that comes up.
Values, who believe what we believe. As I say, it's not a matter of particularly of religious path, it's a matter of underlying good values. It's very important for us because we are living and thinking in discord with the world. The world says, go, you've got to go this way. And we're saying, no, we want to go this way. We're swimming upstream. And it helps to be in the company of a few others who are also swimming upstream. The supreme accomplishment is a continuous decrease of disturbing emotions. The word which they're using for accomplishment is actually the word siddhi. And those of you, of course, who know Sanskrit know that normally when we think of siddhis, we are thinking of sort of like almost magical powers. In the time of Atisha, Atisha died just when Milarepa was born, the great Tibetan yogi. And so in that time, there was a great admiration for siddhis, for special powers, clairvoyance, the ability to fly, the ability to walk through rocks, to manifest objects, and so forth. This was regarded as a very sign of advanced spiritual accomplishment. As today, certainly in India, anybody who has clairvoyance or can manifest gold bracelets from their hands, etc., is regarded as being somebody very spiritually advanced. And this is a big danger because, of course, merely having psychic abilities is no indication really of spiritual advancement. Some real rogues have nonetheless been highly clairvoyant, and some great saints have had no powers at all. It's not, and this is why the Buddha himself forbade that even if one developed psychic powers, that one displayed them. There's a story of some village, there was a big pole, and at the top of the pole was some kind of prize. And anybody who could go up the pole and get that prize would get the prize. It was some bowl containing something. And so one monk who had the siddhi of levitation, he levitated up and took it. And when the Buddha heard about this, I mean, he practically threw him out of the Sangha and made a rule that one must never show one's psychic powers. So, because it not only fools others, but it fools oneself, unless they are used very skillfully for a real purpose, not just to impress others. So, therefore, Atisha is very cleverly taking this word, which most people think of as psychic powers, and saying the real sign of your accomplishment, of your siddhi, is the continuous decrease of disturbing emotions. So disturbing emotions means our greed, our anger, jealousy, pride, anything which is negative and disturbs the mind. When we are angry, our mind is not peaceful. When we are jealous, our mind is not peaceful. When we are greedy and longing for something, to grasp at something and hold on to it, our mind is not peaceful. So therefore, these are called the klesha. Klesha means something which afflicts us, which pains us. Like the hot sun in a desert. That would be a klesh. And so as we begin to see that somebody does something to annoy us, and we don't get disturbed. We think, wonderful, we will deal with this later, again, these qualities. But this quality of, somebody does something to upset us and annoy us, says something bad or does something obstructive, instead of getting all upset, we spontaneously feel patient and recognize that they are helping us on the path to develop the qualities of patience. We don't get upset. Or we see something very desirable and we don't reach out, even in our mind, to possess it. We think, well, actually, I have more than enough and it will just be a trouble to have that. I don't need it. Somebody.
So I would like to take a break here, take a pause, because what was said was very, very important, and it would be nice if we can bring out our personal reflections here, looking at our own lives. That why do we give so much of importance to what other persons say at times, and allow it to still disturb us very much? Or if we have seen changes in ourselves where something comes as an external trigger and we look at our internal trigger as a result of the external one, and we don't budge, like we don't allow it to disturb us. So yeah, it would be nice to hear reflections and experiences on this part, since the verse is that the supreme accomplishment, if there is any true realization on the path, then it's a continuous decrease of disturbing emotions. I do not allow anger, greed, ambition, possession to overrule me. And Mother and Sri Aurobindo also say that self-mastery or mastering oneself is one of the things which we are here for as human beings. That's our birthright. We have to work towards it. So yeah, I would just take a pause here, and please feel free to share any doubts, questions, reflections from your own life, which would make the discussion even more practical and richer. Or if you're facing that at times one is not able to do it, then what are those times when one actually gets disturbed and one is not able to master oneself?
For me, where my mind is going is noticing if I'm disturbed when if someone said something about me that seems not positive, and I feel triggered or anything just out of equilibrium, it's usually, or in this moment, examples that are coming are the times when I've given that other person a lot more power in my mind. It's just within myself. I've gone and created some story that they have more wisdom or they have more influence, or somehow I'm running after, or as Byron Katie would put it, I'm seeking their love, approval, and appreciation. At some level, it's a combination of all those things. And that's what then causes me to suffer. And I'm not at the same time able to give myself the credit of having that same, whether it's wisdom or power or knowledge or expertise in something, I can't see myself at that level in that moment, you know. So it's also a lack of faith and grace in the divine and the mother that I've been made in some form of perfection. You know, it's all combined. And yeah, it's very, very painful and feels terrible.
Yeah, beautiful observation. Yes. In one of the teachings, we had heard Tenzin Palmo sharing exactly what you just shared, that whenever we are meeting anyone, you know, we always are forming images that this person is superior to me. Okay, I am inferior from, to this person. But to this person, I am a little above, you know. So the mind, the limited mind, the logical mind, it's by default, it's like a running machine, and we don't even we are not even conscious that we are buying into those conceptions, those notions. So if we don't become conscious, then this is what happens, that I act according to those limiting beliefs that are being formed, the images that are being formed in the mind out of older ego patterns. Like, this person is high, this person is low. Okay, now I can, allow the advice to come here. I don't have to listen that much because, I am a level above. So this uh, default calculation, the mental chatter that goes on, that's why the mother says that become conscious of your inner ripples. Because if I don't become conscious that, oh my god, the mind is again forming images, then I will by default buy into those images and act according to the dictates of those images. I will follow what they say. But in the moment when those images are arising, as you said, the images in the head are arising about judgments and opinions about a person or a situation, or judgments about my own self. The moment I become conscious, oh, here the judgment is here again, I don't have to buy into it. So this is the benefit of becoming conscious, that we don't have to follow the dictates of these very old patterns that are ruling our lives. We can look at the pattern and just keep it aside, for a moment. Keep it aside, as Byron Katie says that, can you just put it aside, for a moment. You can pick it up again, but she says that for a moment, put aside this image or opinion that you have about any person, any life situation, or about yourself. And then she says, feel how you feel. If I'm not wrong, that's what she says, that feel how you feel when you are without the baggage and interacting with the person without any judgment. And definitely, we say that we feel light, we don't feel heavy. And what stops me to not follow the dictates of the burden? Nothing. And that's where free will comes into picture, that the moment I decide that I'm not going to follow the dictates of these repetitive loops of patterns that rule my life, that moment I can become free from that pattern. And if I have not done that in this human life, then we say that it's a waste of human life, because this is why we are born as human consciousness. An animal does not have that property, that quality to dissociate from the ego pattern, the instinct pattern, the patterns that are ruling. But we as human consciousness have that ability, that I can look at the pattern, become conscious of it, and I can choose not to follow it. Why? Because haven't I suffered enough? Haven't I suffered enough because of the ego pattern? So I decide to step back. And hence the accomplishment arises, from moment to moment, that I don't allow the disturbing emotion to overrule me or really overpower me. I maintain my calm and inner certitude. Yeah. So any more reflections, any questions, anything coming up? Okay, so I'm assuming there's nothing at the moment, so we'll continue. There's a bit of a teaching left, and we'll take it up further.
Somebody gets something that we have wanted so much, maybe promotion or some other material gain, or another person that we desired and they get them. Instead of being all upset and jealous and envious and you're disturbed in the mind, we say, well, that's wonderful. Now how happy they must be. Good for them.
So again, this point is also very important because we don't know how to do it. By default, we are not able to rejoice in other people's happiness. If you look at your own, the way we look at other people, not all of them. For some people, we may be really very delighted. Wow, look at, they've got some success and how happy they would be, and we can rejoice in that happiness. But there are many other people in our lives, and as I'm saying, just review all those people in your life. If they are happy, if they're really enjoying their life, you have trouble being happy about that. There definitely are people like that in our lives. So these are the places where our work lies, because these are our attached spots. So I become jealous actually if that person is happy somewhere else, because I want that person for my own self, or maybe I think that maybe that person doesn't deserve that happiness. Some or the other judgment is going on in the head, and hence I'm not able to feel that delight or happiness that the person has because of following his heart, or maybe having a friend, or doing what he wants to do, she wants to do. I'm not able to rejoice in that happiness. So this is also something which really is a kind of a undercurrent ill will in us. It's an ill will. It's coming from the ego consciousness, me separate and that person separate. How dare he can enjoy if I'm not able to enjoy? So this is something where our task of purification lies, I feel. That the moment I recognize that, oh, that person is happy and I'm not happy about that, the moment I become conscious of it, we can actually transform it and step into their shoes and really feel that joy and happiness that person has, whether it's a success or a promotion or having a relationship or anything. That, wow, isn't that beautiful, how that person is happy and delighted to have found something which is the calling of the heart. So to rejoice in the happiness of others, what it does is it purifies my heart. So this is a very little practice that we all can incorporate in our lives. That the moment I become conscious of any jealousy, any, like ill will towards hatred or ill will towards any other person, I have the power to transmute it. Step into their shoes and feel the joy that they may be having. And Sri Aurobindo, in one of his commentaries on Isha Upanishad, he actually says, he uses two words, two names. One name is Devdutt and the other is Harishchandra. So he says that I, Devdutt, I'm not able to be very happy when Harishchandra has all the material success in life, maybe a good job or money and all that. But why I must try to do that? Why I must try to rejoice in the happiness of Harishchandra? Then he says, because when I am rejoicing in the happiness of Harishchandra, I am actually not rejoicing for Harishchandra. I am actually putting my truest self in front when I am able to rejoice in happiness of others. So the same divine who is present in me is also present in Harishchandra. And who is rejoicing if Harishchandra has success, or success in either work or family life? The divine is rejoicing. So when I rejoice in the happiness of Harishchandra, I am identifying with the divine in me and hence the divine in Harishchandra. And that is why we must try and practice to rejoice in the happiness of others. So I found this was very beautiful because I've never heard such kind of an explanation why we should be happy for others if they are happy. And we do face, as human beings, we do face all these disturbing emotions of jealousy. When the other person is happy, we are not happy and delighted about it. We think that I don't have that. He has that, but I don't have that. So when I know myself as the divine within me, and the same divine is present in the other one, so there is only one who is rejoicing either in me or in him. So where is the difference? That's what I think we have to cultivate. And why we have to cultivate? Because it doesn't come naturally to us, because that is how the creation is. The creation is the story of evolution from darkness to light, from ego consciousness to the divine consciousness. So don't expect that you will be, all divine and very happy for all the time. That's not going to happen, because that's not our journey. Otherwise the manifestation would not be there. The creation is specifically there so that I can have the joy of progress, leaving back ego consciousness and uniting with the oneness and divine consciousness which is there in everyone. This brings me joy. This progress brings me joy. Just like we climb a mountain, if there are no foothills, what is the fun of going to the peak? So the foothills are specifically there so that when I go progress up to the top, I can feel the exhilaration and joy. And that is why our imperfections are there. Because if imperfections are not there, who will have the joy of walking on the path towards perfection? So it's very important that we understand that our journey is from jealousy or disturbing emotions to a decrease of disturbing emotions, because that brings us joy. Haven't you experienced joy in yourself when you're able to take a little step forward, that somebody invoked anger in you and you did not become angry? How joyous you become that, wow, one baby step ahead. In one moment, I did not follow the dictates of anger. So it's because of the delight that progress brings that we are here. Just like it comes in Satchidananda. Ananda is the delight of existence. Progress brings delight. That's why whenever we are in work, places where we are not able to progress, we become very bored and we want to quit the job because there is stagnancy and we are not progressing. And if there is a workplace which gives us challenges from time to time, then we feel very delighted there, that we want to continue because it expands us, it expands our horizons. So yeah, I've really spoken enough. Any reflections at this moment, anyone? So I'm assuming there's nothing at this moment and taking up further a little bit. 3-4 minutes are left.
I mean, if we did that in sport, imagine. You're in football and one team wins. Obviously, one team is going to win, one team is going to lose. So then one team wins and everybody's happy, and the other loses, and they're also happy for the other side. Isn't it? That ability to rejoice in the happiness of others is a very important quality. So therefore Atisha says, even if you're in retreat for a year, when you come out of retreat, the question you ask yourself is not, what great visions you had, what great spiritual experiences and insights. The question you ask is, are your disturbing emotions more, the same, or less? And if you're even more disturbed by other people, you've been peaceful and in retreat, and now you come out and everyone's so noisy and inconsiderate, and we all get so upset. Or if it's just the same, actually, nothing much has changed, then he says that retreat was a waste of time. The only sign of success is if our disturbing emotions have grown less. Then we can think that retreat was worthwhile.
So I think we have a very good kind of a tool with us, which we can use. That if we are in the middle of a very chaotic scene, do we also turn chaotic? Or are we able to be still calm in the chaotic situations? I think that's really a beautiful indicator, like a sensor that we can use for ourselves. And only I would know, whether nobody else can tell. Only I would know whether I'm able to retain my inner peace, inner stability in the middle of disturbing situations. And that's our work. That is our work. Our work is not just to settle down in our comfort zones and, those four little friends who always agree with me, and hence I'm peaceful. And the moment you enter into company of people who maybe are in of opposing point of views, you become really, really disturbed. So that's not the signal of any realization on the path. And this comes very handy when we look at Thich Nhat Hanh, if we look at his videos and talks, that he would always invite children to be part of his retreats. Because many a times we see that in retreats or where adults usually go for sadhana, so-called a bit of seclusion, children are not allowed, because we think that children are maybe too chaotic and disturbing elements. But he is the one, I have not seen any other one, maybe there are more, who really allowed, in fact welcomed children in his retreats. And there are many beautiful conversations of him with little kids, where little kids are asking questions and then he's talking and answering and responding. So I think this is something which is a great inspiration for us, that this is true peace, true inner peace, which is not bothered that this would hit me or that would hit me. So I feel that Thich Nhat Hanh serves as a great inspiration for the point that we were discussing. So anything else anyone wants to share, any personal reflection, experience?
Yeah, Monica, I was resonating with what you meant, or when I heard you say about, when I find myself, like the other day, I found myself in a situation which had happened many, many times with someone very close to me. And usually I would get angry, or I would get very upset or sad. And instead, this time I noticed I was able to speak in an even tone. I was even able to own, like, just, stand my ground, in the sense that often I would, in the same dynamic, end up feeling somehow less than or very disturbed. And instead, even though I noticed that there was disturbance in the body, still in this case, I didn't have to speak that disturbance, that I could let it be, and that there was a ability to choose a different way. That I've heard you say many times in terms of, if only when one is really disgusted with whatever one's negative behaviors are, or the ones that we're trying to change the most, when one is just so fed up and just really aware there's nothing to be got there. And it was like one of those moments it was really, it just felt like grace, because it actually was, it took less effort than I imagined it would take. I think, yeah, I don't even know. I think it's just grace that it even occurred that way, you know, and then that amazing feeling and lightness that comes as a result of not just giving way to a usual tendency or to drama or pain and suffering and all that. So yeah, yeah, I wanted to share that it's
Yeah,
true. It's very motivating.
beautiful. Yeah, more power to you. Isn't that beautiful? You know, these little steps, you know, and absolutely amazing. And it's grace only that, yeah, allows us to become conscious and then not fall a prey to that again. And these are words of the mother, actually, that I quote from time to time. That mother says that you really have to be disgusted with your old self, so that now you have the power to not listen to the dictates of the old self. So that's why, you know, again and again I come back to blessing that suffering serves. Because if I have suffered enough through my old patterns, now I would be convinced that no, I am not going to give in way to these patterns again. So I feel that suffering is a beautiful signal for me, and an indicator that I have had enough, and now I don't want to be a torture for my own self and for others. And I'm not going to listen to those dictates of those patterns again. So, but for that, again, one has to have suffered enough. Because I have seen, again, there may be other ways, but I have seen in my personal journey that somehow the dog's tail that we are, we don't let old patterns go easily from our life. We feel that when I'm listening to a pattern's dictates, it's benefiting me. So when I have suffered enough running after those patterns, then only I get convinced that no, this pattern is not benefiting me. And that's why suffering comes as a blessing in disguise. That I'm able to step back from those patterns, which is our outer consciousness, and stay in the inner consciousness, which is more closer to my true self, and act from there with a lot of certitude. So, yeah, that's the blessing of suffering. Poor suffering, it's been defamed enough, but I think it's quite relevant in how we are as human beings. It's very important to suffer so that we realize that we don't have to suffer anymore. And Mother and Sri Aurobindo also say that when suffering comes, we should not develop a taste for suffering. They say that it's not that I'm inviting suffering, oh, suffering, come, you know, I'm happy when you are here. Not like that. We should not invite it, we should not resist it. But Mother and Sri Aurobindo say that when the suffering is there, you know, then it really can be a beautiful propulsion on the path, because the way it intensifies and in gathers the consciousness, usual joyful states don't do that. Our fleeting pleasures, they don't do that. So yeah, good for us to go through that and realize for ourselves.
And I think the other thing that occurred to me when you were speaking was about, or not even you, and the teaching you were sharing with Tenzin Palmo. I was really surprised at myself, I think it was last week, to notice that a really dear friend of mine, like a best friend, was sharing some good news. And there was happiness and gladness, but at the same time, I noticed there was this other part of me that was like, oh, but that's not happening for me. Or, you know, I mean, I was shocked, right? Because this is really somebody I absolutely adore and love so much. And I thought, wow, you know, just to have that awareness that there was this part of me that could simultaneously be going into poor me, or, you know, comparing, or, and then again, it was just a case of riding the wave. You know, that's what I noticed, because I knew that there was somehow, thank God, there was the awareness, again, by grace, I guess, that to beat myself up or feel guilty or bad, that wasn't going to serve any purpose. But instead, just to stay really present and aware of, wow, this is happening, and not go anywhere with it, just like watch it really and bear witness to that. And then the reminders of mother's words or just any great teacher's words of that is not the true self, that is not my true being in relation to her. So again, grateful to.
Beautiful, beautiful, and amazing that you were able to experience this subtle, it's very undercurrent thing, and beautiful that you were able to experience this, that it's there, and not to just letting it be and looking at it and not following its dictates, knowing that it's not your true self. Absolutely, yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And in one of the books that I was reading, it's called Enlightened Courage. It's commentary by Buddhist teachers, and in one of the verses, let me find it, maybe I get it. It's like, you look at these patterns that arise, the pattern that arose in you, for example, that you shared, and which arises in each one of us, including myself. And what you say is, I'll just tell you what you say to that pattern. And I somehow resonated very deeply with that. Yeah. So when you look at these ego patterns arise, which may be full of jealousy, greed, hatred, anger, aversion, even wanting to possess, all these are egoistic patterns. They've been running our lives since ages. We don't even know how many lifetimes. So when you look at this pattern arising, become conscious of this pattern arising, we can say, 100 harms you have done me, wandering in cycles of existence. Now your malice I remember, and will crush your selfish schemes. So you're not recognizing that pattern that arises as your own. As mother says, that you don't take the desires that arise as this is my desire. You see it as something external. It's not part of your true nature. Why? Because it disturbs. These emotions are very disturbing, and the very fact that they are disturbing tells me that it's not my true nature. That I'm not easy when I'm jealous, I'm not easy when I'm angry, I'm not easy when I'm possessive, I'm full of disturbance. So these are all egoistic patterns that we have to become conscious of and step back from. And another one, he says again, that time when you could beat me down is in the past. It's no more here. Now I see you. Where will you escape? I will crush your haughty insolence. So this reminded me, when your sharing reminded me that when we become conscious of these patterns, we have the free will of not associating with them. It's a beautiful freedom that we experience in ourselves. So yes, more power to you and each one of us. And also we have to realize that we think that we love to, even as you said that it was a friend of yours, we think that we love that friend, but actually the ego patterns are so strong that even for a friend's happiness I'm unable to rejoice fully. Such is the clutch of the ego on ourselves. So we have to learn to love. And to learn to love is to recognize these patterns arising and to not follow the dictates, and to really truly rejoice in that friend's happiness. And when we do that, we actually expand our hearts. The locks on our hearts, they get opened when we are able to rejoice in the happiness of others. That, wow, I may not be there, but how beautiful that you have achieved that. You have had a relationship which is beautiful, or whatever. So when you are doing this, you are actually identifying with your true divine self, which is also present in the other person, and you are disengaging from the ego self. And this is what we have to do every moment. Every moment is this journey. It's never complete, but whenever we do even take a little step ahead, it gives us joy. Yes, Swapna.
Yeah, I was just gonna add that bit, that I'd never heard it quite like that you were, sharing earlier about Sri Aurobindo's words, saying that very thing, that it's the divine in me that is choosing to celebrate and be happy for the divine in the other. And it seems such a simple principle, it's like, well, of course, like no brainer. Yet I never thought of it like that. Yet if I reflect back on that same example I used, that makes sense. Like no wonder that ultimately it was like the divine's help and force that allowed me not to just run with the resentment or the bad feelings, and actually know, just the knowing, right, to that yeah, it's such a good way to explain it, that it's the divine. I'm gonna wish to hold on to that little snippet. It's a really good way to be guided back to sanity, true self.
Yeah, I'll read it for all of us from Sri Aurobindo's. I, Devadatta, am told to enjoy the world, yes, all that is in the world. Yet I find that I have little enough to enjoy, while my neighbor Harishchandra has untold wealth. So it could be anything. It could be relationship. It could be material success. Spiritual success. Harishchandra has that. I Devdutt don't have that. Right? Aage. If I am to enjoy the world, how shall I proceed to my object? Not surely by abandoning the little I have, but by keeping fast hold onto it and adding to it much that Harishchandra has. So this is the usual way, that if that person has more, you also accumulate more, so that you also feel that bigness. So would argue the natural man, rationally enough from his point of view, but so would not argue the karma yogin. He will covet no man's possession, because he knows such terms as possession, mine, thine, to be false. So this me, you, this separation, Karma Yogin takes it to be false. It is a false separation. Yeah. And illusory in the light of the secret, tremendous truth that he has got hold of, that there is nothing in this world real, desirable, and worth calling by the name of bliss except Brahman, the reality of things. Self gratification and possession of wealth and its enjoyments are illusory, transitory, and attended with inevitable trouble and pain. But the enjoyment of one's identity with Brahman and the possession of Brahman are pure and undisturbed bliss. So he's also saying, there's another part which I wanted to share. I'll maybe later share on the group itself, where he exactly uses the words that when I am rejoicing in the happiness of Harishchandra, I am actually identifying with my divine self who is rejoicing in Harishchandra. And here he says that I know very well by now that no material possession, including persons, because in relationships we feel that one is possessing the other person, can bring absolute bliss to anyone. So if my relationship is not working out and I have a feeling that look at that person's relationship, they are really glued to each other, that can never happen. No person can have a satisfaction in another person. Never. That is never going to happen. So that's what he was sharing in this paragraph, which is again a continuation of what we were, the story of Devdutt and Harishchandra. That I don't have to feel that I have less and he has more, because even if he appears to have more, no person can have absolute satisfaction in material pleasures. So that is one way of looking at it. And the other way was what we were sharing earlier, that when he is he is happy for a reason, maybe workplace or relationship or anything, then why am I rejoicing? And I'm rejoicing because I'm identifying with the divine in me, who is rejoicing in Harishchandra also. So I'm putting my psychic in front, I'm putting my true self in front. That's how I rejoice. So I'll share this exact paragraph with all of you in the meditation group, so that maybe if we want, we can go through it. And I've never really ever come across an explanation of rejoicing in others' happiness like this, the way Sri Aurobindo has put it. It's really beautiful. Yeah. And it takes effort, because by default we are identified with ego consciousness, which is very limited, narrow, me, mine, little me. But when we put effort, we are able to identify with the expansiveness that we are. We don't have to be limited all our lives. Yeah, so any last comments, anyone?
Maybe we can elaborate on the same thing a little in the next session.
This Devdutt and Harishchandra thing?
Yes, the same para that you were just saying.
Okay. Sure, we can take it up again. Yeah. In fact, just give me a moment because we still have time. I'll just find it and put it in front on the shared screen. Just a second. Yeah, I've found it. I'm just putting it online here. Yeah, so this is it. So here, yeah. So this is the one. This is the whole of the paragraph. It's like a big passage. And this is what I wanted to bring to attention. That when I am preferring, when I am rejoicing in the happiness of Harishchandra, what is happening? It is natural because I'm not really preferring another to myself, but my wider, truer self to my narrower, false self. So, this is what the examples that Swapna today was beautifully sharing. That when I notice a little bit of jealousy in me or not being happy about others person's happiness, this is my limited ego self. And when I am actually putting effort in able to rejoice in the happiness of the other person, I am actually identifying with my wider, truer self. That's my true self, because when I do that, I feel really expanded. And when I am in jealousy or not very happy about the other person, then I am feeling so limited and so constricted and full of sense of lack. And that is the feeling that tells me that no, that's not my true self. So when I'm doing this, it is natural because I'm not really preferring another to myself, but my wider, truer self to my narrower, false self. God, who is in all, to my single mind and body. So I'm preferring the divine in all to my little self, limited self, who is limited by this body. Myself in Devdatta and Harishchandra to myself in Devdatta alone. So when I'm able to rejoice in the happiness of others, how beautiful that he is happy, then I am expanding myself because I am now able to be Harishchandra also and Devdatta also. I'm not just limited as Devdatta. So that's the beauty. And then he says it is right. So this effort that we put in rejoicing is right because by embracing in my range of feelings the enjoyment of Harishchandra, in addition to my own, I shall make my knowledge of the universality of Brahman an experience and not merely an intellectual conception. So this means that usually we are always talking that हर सब में परमात्मा है, and everywhere there is divine, we are all enlightened, each being is enlightened, but that is only a theory in our heads. But when I am actually able to rejoice in the happiness of other, then I'm making it practical for me. That yes, if there is divine in all and I am also divine, then when he is happy, I should be happy. You know? And when I'm not able to be happy, then I am identified with my ego self. And similarly, when other persons are suffering, we suffer too. How can I be happy when the other person is suffering? And so that is why in the list of our Lojong root verses, that we were reading in the beginning, towards the end there comes that the supreme uh, service is to bring others to dharma. And dharma means, that we understand truth together. We understand wisdom. We understand our true nature together. This is dharma. Because so long as we are not understanding who we truly are, we will continue to suffer. So, not to leave even a single person on the path who continues to suffer. Because if you suffer, I suffer. Your suffering is my suffering. And that is compassion. That is why in Buddhism they say that compassion of the Bodhisattvas, or in Hindi we say, in other religions we say compassion of the avatar, that he may be in very well in the other heavenly realms, but he drops that realms and he comes back to the world of manifestation because he cannot tolerate us continue to suffer when he can help. That's why avatars come again and again to help us, to give us pointers. Yeah. So, again, and this doesn't come to us naturally. Rejoicing for others doesn't come to us naturally. We have to cultivate it. This is very important because in every tradition they have said that put effort in practice. Mother also talks about personal effort. Because as long as we are identified with the ego self, to truly reclaim our divine self, we will have to put effort. Karat karat abhyas ke jadmati hot sujan. We used to have this in Hindi books when we were little. So yes,
I
the
had a different experience, I would say.
please.
Naturally, I used to be, I was like, I would always rejoice in other person's success. And now also it's somewhere there. But growing up years, it has reduced a little. So I would say the natural tendency was actually to rejoice in someone else's success. So over the years, I would not say it is not there, but it has become very restricted now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful because what you shared is very true. Because when we look at little children, they actually feel very happy and delighted for other children around if they are
Right.
enjoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that really comes natural with us, absolutely, and good that you pointed it out. But as we get conditioned, through our parents, teachers, and people around, then through that conditioning, that gets a little masked, the true self. And that's what we are here to reclaim.
Yeah.
Yeah, good that you pointed it out. Because I used to, there are little children around in our where we live, and there's one particular child who used to be very delighted. He would do like this, become very delighted when the other person would be on the swing. So he was not feeling that no,
Okay.
I have to be on the swing.
Yeah.
So I have never seen any kid do it so vibrantly. So he would do like this, that wow, such a delight
Yeah.
that the other person is swinging the right. Yeah. But through our conditioning this really gets masked, but we can, we have the free will and we can reclaim that back. And that's why we say that in many traditions we say that we have to actually become like a child to come back to the divine, innocent and pure. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, so any last comments, anyone? All right, so thank you so much for all your reflections, inputs, and listening and reflecting together. So we'll meet again next week, same time, and we'll take up the next verse. So happy practice, everyone, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Monica. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Uh, Bye.